Good evening, I'm Jeremy Greco, and it's time for your playoff odds report. Today, the Royals beat the Twins, and are now 1.5 games ahead of the Red Sox for the final wildcard spot before tonight's action. Before today's action, their Baseball Reference playoff odds were 48.3%. Also before today's action, their Baseball Prospectus playoff odds were 39.6%. And their Fangraphs playoff odds at time of recording are 52.2%. Their magic number is 42, and we now return you to your regularly scheduled Royals Rundown podcast.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome to tonight's Royals Rundown podcast presented by Royals Review. I'm Jake Milham. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for starting us off tonight, but I'm joined now by Jeremy Greco. Jeremy, how are we feeling this Wednesday? It certainly feels like the middle of the work week, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, I called out sick this morning, so I got to really sit down and focus on today's game, which when I saw that starting lineup, I was not sure I wanted to do.
Yeah,
but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, we'll talk about some of that gut reaction later on in the show, but first, do want to point y'all to royalsreview.com. If you're not already a regular visitor there, please amend that immediately. If you really want to be an informed Royals fan, you got to do so through royalsreview.com. The game recaps, the game threads, analysis, history, much, much more for every Royals fan out there, only at royalsreview.com. So, Jeremy, we waited to record until after tonight's game, or today's game, this afternoon game, where the Royals won 4-1 thanks to a dominant showing from Cole Regan's, Witt Jr. pulling this lineup to postseason form, kicking and screaming, and then the almost forgotten man, Paul DeJong, putting one over the fence himself.
Paul DeJong, as like 5 of the Royals Twitter accounts I followed called him.
Yes. It's like Paul DeJong buys a ticket to Dong Town.
Yeah,
there's so many nicknames you can give him. I don't want to settle on this series too much. It's pretty easy to react to series by series. Overall, of course, first 2 games weren't great for the Royals at all, but this is that game that reminds us of the early season Royals. Okay, you get a dominant start and the lineup does enough. They capitalize when they can and they get the job done. Jeremy, are you ready to flip the page on this series, man?
Yeah, so had just a couple of general thoughts about this series.
Okay.
That I kind of wanted to go over, and I know we're going to talk about Seth Lugo more in a minute.
Yes.
So I'm not going to say anything about him. But I will say that, and they said this at the top of the broadcast, and honestly, this series was one of the weaker TV broadcasts that the Royals have had this year. Just not a good time when you're praising a guy who has an ERA over 5 in AAA because he doesn't walk anybody. Yeah, he doesn't walk anybody. Yeah, he gets a lot of chase. He also has an ERA over 5 in AAA, gives up tons of hits, tons of runs. I'm sorry. That was a bad hitting performance by the Royals. That was not good pitching.
No, it really wasn't.
Vinny Pasquantino was on a long hitless streak. He got a hit today. Hunter Renfroe on a long hitless streak. Again, we'll talk about all this, I think, more in a little bit. But just the Twins they're the boogeyman this year for the Royals.
Yeah.
In 2014, it was the Tigers and the Guardians. This year, it's the Twins. And honestly, it was everybody in the Central. Even the White Sox were kind of a boogeyman for the Royals in the Central Division in 2014, and they weren't very good. So the fact that the Twins are the only team that they can't seem to handle in the Central is kind of good news. And as Matthew Lamar pointed out, and this is where I'm just going to start and probably where I'll finish, even though we're going to kind of maybe find some negative stuff to talk about in the middle. Where I'm going to start is the Royals are in a playoff spot in the middle of August. They control their own destiny even now.
Yeah.
Also, they have been swept on time all year.
Pretty good. It's a pretty good success rate there. What I was going to say is you talked about it before we got on the show. And right now, the Royals don't need to keep pace with, a team who's going like 7-3 in their last 10 games. Okay, right now across the AL outside of the Astros, it's kind of been a slumping August.
Yeah.
Like a lot of teams are not bringing their A game, and I don't know if it's some late summer blues. I don't know if it's they're intentionally holding things in the tank for the September push. But that's just what it is.
The Red Sox we were talking about also before we started recording. The Red Sox are playing over their heads. The Royals have the second best run differential. Last time I looked, it might be third now because of that blowout yesterday. But the Red Sox are only like plus 20 run differential. They should not be close to the Royals in record. They just shouldn't be. And yet somehow they are. So they were playing a little over their heads. They've been losing a lot of games. They did win both of the first two games of this week while the Royals were losing. So it felt like, oh no, they're coming right behind us, but they're going to lose some more games. The Guardians, as Rex actually talked about when the Royals played them, and as I said, I think that makes sense. Their starting rotation, their bad starting rotation is catching up to them. Their bullpen can't nail things down anymore. They're all worn out. So really the Twins are the scary team in this division. And here's the thing, and I think we talked about this a little bit last time. The Guardians are falling apart so hard, so fast, even though they also won their first two games, that the Royals' competition for the division really is the Twins. And if the Twins win the division, they can't win a wild card spot.
Correct.
Which means that the Royals have a real opportunity, if they can continue to control their games against the Guardians, to just pass the Guardians and take the second wild card spot.
It would be pretty nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It'd be pretty great. Yeah, to the whole point of the Red Sox playing in over their head. So if you ever go over, check the standings on your own. I don't understand why you would, because Mr. Jekyll has you covered twice a week. But whatever, if you want to check it on your own, that's cool. If you look over to the right of the screen, there's this thing that says X-win WL, and that's expected wins loss, and that's based off of a run differential. It's like, okay, so
which is studies have shown time and time again that's the most predictive statistic for how much a team is going to win going forward.
Correct. And also, according to Baseball Reference, the Royals are not just they are the most unlucky team is the term that they put out there. So right now they have 66 wins. Well, this expected wins loss gives them 69 wins. I don't know about you, but there's a massive difference between 66 and 55 and 69 and 52.
It's the difference between being a game and a half over the Red Sox right now or 4.5 over the Red Sox right now.
Exactly. Like if they were, let's just say the entire AL Central played out according to that expected wins loss, the Royals would be in the driver's seat of the division right now.
Not just of the wild card, of the division, right?
Yes. And they would have, I've double checked it just right now. They would have the second best record in baseball.
So they'd be looking not just at a playoff spot, but at a bye through the wild card round.
Exactly. So there is, we'll talk a little bit about some of the personnel decisions later on in the show that got me down. I'm sorry, this series was a bummer. It really was. I'm very thankful that they had the performance today, even though it wasn't dominant. Okay, Carlos Santana was probably about 4. I've listened on the radio, so I don't know how close his deep ball was late in the game, but Jake Eisenberg made it sound like he was like 4 or 5 feet away from tying up the ball game in the 8th inning.
Watch the bottom of the 9th,
so it was. I remember it was Sam Long pitching, and
that was the 8th inning.
Yeah, so bottom of the 8th inning. It was right before Urseg came in. So yeah, it was the bottom of the 8th.
Yeah, it was a pretty deep fly.
Okay, so it's I don't know, like that sort of stuff is frustrating, but all in all, Royals don't get swept. They get another off day, which should be good, and they go and face off against Cincinnati, who Cincinnati is good. They're not a basement dweller, but they're also not a postseason contending team. So we'll see what the Royals have in store for the rest of this week, but I'm not hopping off the postseason bandwagon yet. Just maybe my calls for people hopping on are a little dampened.
They hold a playoff spot. It's still theirs. It's still theirs. And here's the thing, and this is the thing that gets me a little bit when I see people talking about stuff is that magic number. It keeps going down.
It does.
Not maybe always as quickly as you would like, but every time the Royals don't just have to win. As long as the Red Sox lose, that number goes down.
Mm-hmm.
And the Red Sox have been losing. Not the first 2 games of this week, but they've been losing. It's just, I mean, they got swept over the weekend. They lose. They're going to lose probably a bunch of games. And that magic number of 43. Okay, put this in context. That's fewer games than the season has left in it. Let's say the Royals play 500. They're still going to knock 20 games off of that. So as long as the Red Sox lose 20 games over the rest of the year, which seems entirely probable,
not
they go to the playoffs, right? Yep. That's where we're at right now. Is if the Royals play 500, chances are very high that they're in.
Yes. And I do, before I go down this rabbit hole further, Jeremy, let's go ahead and talk about some of the player personnel stuff, because I think that was one of the sticking points during this Minnesota Twins series. Royals had Sunday off, so everyone was kind of chomping at the bit for baseball. And there were some things that were frustrating to the fans. And I can't think of any bigger frustration today than seeing Adam Frazier in the leadoff spot. Now, there are flowers to be given because Frazier proceeded to turn in a 3-hit game. And I want to double check my numbers here. He didn't score a run, which for some reason I thought he did, but he did have a 3-hit game.
Got pitch ran for by Michael Garcia.
That's what I was thinking.
So he got on base that last time, and then the run scored, but it wasn't him.
Gotcha. So that's kind of been the big thing. Paul DeJong not playing any of the Twins games until today was criminal in my mind. But a lot of the frustration really centered around Frazier. And you tweeted about it either yesterday or today. Like, it's getting hard to defend.
It was today when I saw that lineup.
Yeah, I mean,
playing Adam Frazier today is not the worst decision that Q could have made with this lineup.
Okay.
We need to talk about roster construction, and we're going to do it in a minute.
Yep.
But it's not indefensible to play Adam Frazier today. Assuming Michael Massey, you're going to give him a day off because of his back issues. Give him the 2 days off because they got tomorrow off. Makes a lot of sense. And Michael Garcia, you want to give him a day off because he's been struggling a little bit lately. And then you're down to Garrett Hampson or Adam Frazier. And might as well take the platoon advantage, Adam Frazier, in that situation. The indefensible part to me was, why the hell is he leading off?
Yeah.
And then he gets 3 hits.
Yes.
So the question is Q's process flawed and he's got successful, or does Q know something we don't know? And I really want to believe that Q knows something we don't know, but it's hard to say.
So here's something that I did not realize. Adam Frazier's last 7 games, so not a massive amount. 7 games, no home runs, 2 RBIs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, a 353 average, and a 421 OBP.
Yeah, he's been doing good as a pinch hitter.
He has. And I think there's value there, which is why I would prefer him to come off of the bench and pinch hit if need be. But I'm done. I'm out on Adam Frazier. I don't care either way how his results went today. I'm done with it. I want them to move on.
I said before the season that this team doesn't need Adam Frazier and Garrett Hampson.
Correct.
I preferred Hampson for his speed and his right-handed bat in a lineup that can be dominated outside of the stars by lefties, and for his additional positional versatility. He can play short and center. Adam Frazier cannot. But we're 3/4 of the way through the season now, almost 3/4 of the way.
I think we are 3/4.
Still don't think we need both of them.
No, we don't. And the redundancies only get further when you look at, say, Garrett Hampson and Dairon Blanco. I mean, Hampson can do all the things a Blanco can do, and they're both right-handed bats.
So Blanco's a better base stealer.
Yes, Blanco is a better base stealer. I'm not gonna disagree with that.
If you said, listen, we want Blanco and Frazier instead of Hampson, I would say, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Then cut Hampson. We certainly, we don't need all 3 of them. No. Any 2 of them is sufficient.
And this doesn't even begin to cover Adam Frazier in right field yesterday, which I'm sorry. Like, you're not just risking individual game plays, but a collision like that in the outfield is risking the future of
We've
Kyle
already
Isbell.
lost games for Kyle Isbell because of a collision in right field.
Yeah.
When it was during the Texas Rangers series, the two collided in right field, and Isbell lost a couple of games, I think.
He did. And he was shaken up for even more games after that. And that doesn't even touch on like the ball that skipped off of his glove. And it went just far enough where it was out of Isbell's reach, and it was almost an inside the park home run. So there was some defense to his spot on the roster because he could play the corner outfield. And I get it. He had that play where he saved the game. He had the home run robbery.
He's
awesome.
Single-handedly won 2 different games for the Royals, and I still don't think. And he's still like negative WAR.
Yes,
like any AAA guy you would expect to be better than him.
Exactly, and
including Nick Lofton.
Yes, believe it or not, I don't think there's any number there's any tangible that you can show me that Adam Frazier is helping the Kansas City Royals. I'm sure that if we asked Quatrero or if we asked Vinny, like, hey, what does Frazier bring to the team? They're not going to talk about his on-field stuff. They're going to talk about the clubhouse presence, the veteran presence. Hey, he's been to the postseason, yada, yada, yada. That's what they're going to touch on. I'm sorry. We're at this point in the season where, like, I don't give a crap about that. I really don't. So that was kind of the big roster decision stuff that I was getting frustrated about, especially when we are playing Adam Frazier over Michael Garcia at second. Now, I like Michael at second. I think it's a long-term thing that can work out, but it also gets DeJong into the lineup a little bit more often.
And it sure as heck looks like DeJong belongs in the lineup.
He does.
He's had multiple good games for the Royals. He's had some stinkers, but he's had multiple good games.
Correct. That he has. And he just got home run number 20 on the season.
He was a triple shy of the cycle. He reached base in every at bat today.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Since the Royals traded for DeJong, he's hitting .320 with a 400 OBP and 600 slug, good for a cool 1,000 OPS with, let's see here. Yep, 2 home runs, 5 RBIs, and actually 4 walks to 7 strikeouts. That's pretty damn good. It's a good ratio for him.
Yeah.
So I just want to see him get more opportunity and maybe, I don't know, bring some diversity to the bench. I'm not talking about, skin tone or nothing like that. I'm talking like a diversity in skill set.
Yes.
But Jeremy,
anyone thought you were talking about skin tone until you said that.
I did. Well, welcome to 2024. Is there anything else on the player stuff that you want to talk about?
So I'm done with the bullpen shenanigans. I'm sorry. Yeah. I've defended Will Smith and Chris Stratton on this roster in various ways, but the more I think about it, the more Chris Stratton defense doesn't make any sense. Okay? The defense I've offered is that he's been mediocre and he's got a player option for next year that he would absolutely exercise if they cut him. So they'd be paying him $5 million next year to pitch for somebody else. Pay him $5 million next year to pitch for someone else. You have room in your bullpen for mediocre guys when you have a variety of guys that you trust.
Yep.
We don't. No. We have Lucas Erceg, and then we have Chris Bubich and Sam Long that we think we trust.
Right.
We have John Schreiber that we trusted at one point, but he's on the injured list and he wasn't great. He was okay. He was starting to come back maybe before he went on the injured list, but we don't know for sure. We don't know what he's going to look like when he does come back. We have Dan Altavilla on the injured list and Hunter Harvey on the injured list who bring some fire, but have not pitched great. We need to, is Evan Sisk the answer? I don't know. Gosh darn it. My brain has just evaporated out of my skull. Is Steven Cruz the answer?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. There's one other guy that I was thinking of that's down. Is Jonathan Bolin the answer?
Yep.
I don't know. But we know Chris Stratton isn't the answer. Will Smith was pitching better. He got more and more leverage innings. Not pitching better anymore.
Nope. Exactly.
Only can pitch to lefties. Yes. Also, only lefties. I know he's not the answer. The good news, James MacArthur now has 3 straight scoreless appearances. He struck out 4, including 2 in each of his last 2 appearances.
That's all right.
So maybe he's fixed. Curveball certainly looked like it had its bite back and like it was getting close enough to the strike zone to tempt people. So that's good news.
It is. That it is.
Angel Zerpa, probably just go ahead and demote him. Let him pitch in Omaha for a little bit. Let him figure it out. Like, I'm not saying cut him. I'm not saying fire him into the sun. I'm saying demote him temporarily and let's see what else we've got.
Yes. That's why we have a 40-man roster, folks. Okay. That's why we have minor league options. So we can have some roster flexibility. And at the end of the day, probably just need some fresh arms. Okay. I think there are a few relievers who are dealing not with dead arm, but we're at the midpoint of August. Okay. There are folks who are getting tired and they're not going to rebound from that in season. Go ahead.
I was going to say, speaking of being tired, can we talk about Seth Lugo for a sec?
Yes.
All right. Let me give you my spin on what's happening.
I want to hear this because there's a lot of chatter about this.
I do think Lugo is tired.
Okay.
Especially because not only has he passed his innings threshold, but he had the complete game. He had the 8-inning outing recently.
Yep.
He has pitched a lot this season. He's pitched a lot recently. I do think he's tired. I do not think this is the end of him being an effective pitcher, even in 2024. I think if they could skip his turn in the rotation once, or even just let him pitch through it. Let him give him some shorter outings for a little bit.
Yes.
Let him pitch through it. I think he can bounce back. But yeah, we might see another couple of bad starts before he comes through the other side.
Yeah.
But I don't think this is the end of him being an effective starter. Maybe he's not. I do think it's the end of him as a Cy Young candidate.
Yeah.
Sorry, that sucks.
Yep.
That was a fun dream while it lasted.
It was.
But it was always, I think if we were ever honest with ourselves, we were like, is this really a thing? And I get it. Like, I was really starting to go, man, he just keeps going. He just keeps going.
Why doubt him?
Okay, Cy Young Award, he might get some votes. He's not going to win it. That's fine. Can he be effective in the middle of September? Can he be effective if they make the postseason? I think so, and that's what ultimately matters. Cole Regan's, meanwhile, does not care. Cole Regan's is going to be effective now.
Yes. And I think that was one of the most encouraging parts of his start today was to get out of the 6th inning. What does he do? He rears back, throws 199 miles an hour for the strikeout.
He's still got that in him.
He does.
He's not hurt.
Nope.
I think that's the biggest thing is like
we were
people
worried
worried
about
that he was injured with the velocity decrease. He's not hurt.
No.
He's just not throwing it as hard.
Correct.
And he's still 5 hits, 8 strikeouts, no walks in 7 innings today. That is an ace outing.
It is.
Fantastic stuff from Cole Regan's today. Very excited for him to pitch in game 1 of a playoff series.
Yes. Back to, I do want to touch on Seth Lugo again because it seems like June was the turning point for him, whether we were realizing it or not. He threw 590 pitches in May, which is a lot over 6 starts. Mm-hmm. You're averaging just shy of 100 pitches per start. Mm-hmm. That's a lot for an older guy heading into the summer. Now, his ERA in the month of June, popped up to 3.11, which is still great. Mm-hmm. But compared to the sub-2 ERAs he was putting up in April and May, it was noticeable. Then July rolls around, 4.78 ERA, and now as we sit here in August, he has a 6.23 ERA on the month.
I do wonder if they might be well served to find an injury for him.
Maybe
let him go on the IL for a couple of weeks, miss a start or two, and Alec Marsh could come up and make a couple of starts. And then, if Marsh is really good, then he can stay up, and he or Lorenzen can be in a long relief role. Maybe they could piggyback on each other. Maybe Lorenzen's not getting deep in starts either. No. And then Lugo maybe is ready to come back and, all right, I took a couple weeks off. I'm feeling good now.
I like that. There is one other factor that I said it's probably nothing, It's probably nothing substantial, but it is an odd coincidence, I think. So I didn't tell you about this before the start of the show because I wanted you to be surprised. So
I'm surprised.
This is a player A and B.
All right.
Thing when they're playing in the field. So keep that. And these are pitching stats when they are playing when this player is in the field. Okay. Pretty even stuff. Player A has 65 games and player B has 71 games.
Okay.
Player A, the pitching staff has a 3.49 ERA and allows a .701 OPS, which is good for a OPS plus of 98. So overall, when that player is in the field, the opposition is below average, marginally.
A little bit, yeah.
But still below average. For some reason, the strikeout to walk ratio is better and not nearly as many home runs. Player A only has 48 home runs when they're in the field. Player B has 68 when they're in the field. Player B, the ERA spikes up to 4.22. That's a noticeable difference, I think. Mm-hmm. And the OPS is marginal, 0.711, so 10 points increase, but good enough for a 101 OPS plus. So an above average opposition. Those numbers are when Freddie Fermin is behind the plate and when Salvador Perez is behind the plate.
So they're better when Fermin's behind the plate?
They're better when Fermin is behind the plate. He is player A, Salvi is player B. Neither one are bad. I'm not saying Perez is awful, but that I cannot get past that ERA, man. Like that's a pretty big shift in my mind.
They pitched better to Fermin last year too.
They did. And I don't know if he's calling better games. I don't know if he's
they're
framing
calling
that
their
much
own
better
games now.
Well, are all of them calling their own? Are all of them calling their own games?
I know my understanding is that all of them call their own games now.
Okay, I'll have to do a little bit more look into that. But I don't know. Is there anything to be worried about there? You think I would lie if I said that I don't like seeing Freddie Fermin behind the plate and more often, you know?
Salvi has 3 outs above average at first base this year. All the metrics paint him as average or slightly above average at first base defensively, which matches the eye test. Honestly, he looks pretty good over there.
He does.
He does not stretch as well as Pasquantino, but that's about it.
Yeah.
And Pasquantino just flat out does the splits.
Yes.
He's crazy. Guy is wild.
If I see Salvi do that, that would be Sports Center top 10.
Let me check Vinny's stats here, but I bet they're not. I think he's going to have negative numbers at first base.
Yeah, he's been kind of rough.
And he receives the ball pretty well, but what I see is a guy who, especially to his left, when it turns into an extra base, he doesn't always get there. Nope. Actually, his numbers are positive at first base as well, except on good fielding plays, runs saved above average. That's negative. So when it's time for a really good play, he doesn't get it.
Gotcha.
He also has a lot more innings, and the numbers are not as positive as Salvi's, which would suggest, though, you're dealing with small sample sizes, even across a whole season when you're talking defensive metrics, suggest that Salvi is better defensively at first base. He's at least equal, you would think.
Okay.
I would not hate the idea of kind of making Fermin the starting catcher and Salvi the starting first baseman and Vinny the starting DH if you can put Massey second. Fairly often.
That's what it all relies on.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Certainly would like to see them splitting time almost evenly behind the plate.
Yeah.
Like, regardless of anything else, just to keep Salvi from getting worn out as we're getting towards the end of this year, even if the defensive metrics said that they were even. Even if the pitcher ERA said that they were even. That's what I would want to see. So I think the first base experiment is really working very well for Salvi. Mm-hmm. Everyone was always telling me, Salvi could just move to first when he gets older and it'll be fine. I was like, we have no idea how well his glove will play there. We don't know if he'll hit well enough there. He's hitting well enough. His glove is playing. Make him a first baseman. That's fine. I'm fine. Yeah. And he can be the backup catcher. And Fermin can take the majority of the catching duties. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, through Tuesday's games, Freddie's innings behind the plate, 459, and Salvi's at 5.95 and 2/3.
They're already really kind of half and half behind the plate. So just maybe bump them up a little bit then. Just a little bit would get you where you're trying to go, I think.
Yeah. I think if they bump it up right now, by season's end, they could be about 50-50, even if it's like 52-48, something like that. But it's, I don't know. I don't know if there's something to be said there. Just
the fact that it's true over 2 years with two completely different pitching staffs, I think there is. I think there's something there. I think Freddie discourages stolen bases more than Salvi does at this point in his career. I mean, the metrics tell us that Freddie receives the ball better,
right?
Frames better. He's a better catcher for pitchers.
Okay. That's going to make a nice MLB career for him. I will say that. So if you think we're off our rocker, cool, that's fine. But you got to let us know. You can reach out to us on social media, or you can just tag.
I don't know if anybody's leaving comments on Spotify anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing them.
Yeah, it's if you're commenting, I'm like, we're genuinely sorry here. We're just not seeing it.
And we loved, I've told Jacob many times, I know he feels the same way, that I loved the Q&A and reading your all's responses and hearing your thoughts. And I'm extremely disappointed that we don't have that anymore. You can also, these go up as posts on Royals Review, right?
Yeah, that's it.
So you can go leave a comment there if you're like, well, I'm not going to use X because Elon is evil. I get it. Just go comment on the Royal Review article. We'll check those too.
Yes, that we do. But if just come at us proper, say, no, Jacob, no, Jeremy, this is why you're wrong. We love a good baseball discussion. There were several good baseball discussions happening when MLB Pipeline released their midseason update to the top 100, and thankfully, the Royals got some pretty good favors in the re-rank time.
Yeah,
the top overall, or the 6th overall pick, in this year's draft, Jack Caglianone debuted as the 18th best prospect.
That is all of so high for a guy who just got drafted.
Yes.
Do you remember, or is there a way for us to look up where Bobby ranked when he got drafted?
So
he had to be pretty high too.
He had to be, and no, I don't have that readily available, but I do know that Caglianone is just the 3rd Royals player in the past decade and a half to be in the top 20 for prospects. It was Bobby, Will Myers, and now Jack Caglianone. So take that for what it's worth.
Bobby came in at 7.
Okay, see, that's pretty damn good. But he's also a generational talent. So
yeah, I mean, 18 starting at 18 is already really good. And oh my gosh, Jacob, I gotta tell you, I posted that home run, that grand slam he hit in my game thread on Saturday because that was the day he hit it. And I had people in there that were like, that was off a position player, and he's been striking out so much for advancing through the system quickly. He's played 5 games at that point. 5 games.
Let's calm down a little bit, folks. He's not a bust yet.
An ounce of patience.
No patience. No patience. And you know what, Jeremy? Who was it? I'm listening to, I'm blanking on his name. He's the head guy over at KCSN. He used to write for the Chiefs. Oh, why am I blanking on his name?
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name either.
Dang it! It'll come to me later on. But I was listening.
Something.
I think it is BJ Kissel. I'm not 1,000. I think it is. I didn't want to get it wrong. But either way, I was listening to, like, he does the 10 things podcast, and he was doing it over the preseason Chiefs game. And he was talking about the media spinning up a bunch of these players. The rugby player that joined the Chiefs as a good example. Justin Ross was a victim
Luis
of this.
Rees-Zammit.
Yes, thank you.
Or Lewis.
And, even if Caglianone is a benefactor of that, I think baseball fans are much quicker than football fans to say, like, okay, this kid doesn't, or he does have it, if that makes sense. I get it. We might have overhyped the timeline a little bit. I don't think we've overhyped the talent.
We don't know.
No, we don't
know after less than 2 weeks of games what the timeline is actually going to be. He could go on a tear where he hits 30 home runs and 40 at bats or something insane, and we're like, maybe they should just bring him to the big leagues.
Maybe. I will.
Not likely. He could also strike out 40 of his next 50 times, and we could go, oh, maybe that wasn't a good pick.
There's a lot of variables here, folks. We can't
know, and we're not even going to really know anything until after the season. Even after the season, we're not going to know anything. A lot of how fast he's going to progress is going to depend on what happens during the offseason. Where do they start him when they come back? And if they start him at high A again, does he stay there for long? Does he look like he's mastered that level immediately next? Like, whatever he does this year, really kind of irrelevant, honestly. Yeah.
Okay.
Blake Mitchell did not look good last year. How about this for transition? Did not look good last year, right? People were like, "Oh boy, the Royals really screwed up on that one. He's in the complex league and he's striking out." Jacob, tell me a little bit about Blake Mitchell this year.
So I don't have his numbers in front of me, but I will say this: they're
you have
good enough.
His prospect ranking in front of you, right?
Yes, I do, because to start off the season, he was at number 94 in the top 100. He was the only Royals prospect.
Top 100, yes.
He's the only Royals prospect in their top 100. Now he sits at 56. Okay, he rose 38 spots. That is good for the fifth largest rise amongst any prospect. That's pretty good. That's pretty damn good, Jeremy. I mean, and he deserves it. Like, his performance is showing that. And I'm sorry, folks. Go take the time to watch Blake Mitchell for the Fireflies right now. I get it; it's low A, but holy smokes, that kid's been hitting the weight room, and he is big.
He's got the strikeout rate down on the season under 30%.
And
that's the season strikeout rate. And it started off really high, and it was a concern, even though he was hitting, that he was still striking out so much. That's how little he struck out lately, that it's come back down for the season under 30%.
Whew. I don't know. I'm really high on these two prospects. I am. And
I'm going to look here if I can. Since the beginning of July, he has a 26% strikeout rate with a 13.8 walk rate.
That'll play.
I think that'll work.
That'll play.
I think that'll work.
Yeah.
When you walk that much and you're hitting that with that much power, he has an 836 OPS over that span, a 192 ISO, a 142 WRC plus. His WRC plus is low since July. Like his season is 149. It's 142 since the beginning of July. Like,
darn.
So he's been very consistent.
He has
also.
Yes, exactly.
It's not like he had a really hot streak and then he's kind of cold. It's like, no, he's just been good.
And last point on Caglianone, I did have a chance to talk to Brooks Conrad, the high A manager, and he didn't have a whole lot to say about Cags' bat. He did have a lot to say about his fit at first base.
Okay.
Really praised focused on his footwork. That's
the hard part of first base. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
People say first base, just put your guy who can't field over there. When I was in Little League, and I know this does not compare to the big leagues at all. When I was in Little League, they said, you're a fat guy. You're not very fast. We're going to put you at first base. I could not figure out the footwork, no matter how hard I tried. I got game balls for my defense in right field and at second base, and they tried to put me at first. At first base is not easy. Like, it is difficult. It's not just stick a guy over there and it'll be fine.
Much to as easy as Salvia makes that transition look, it is not easy. It really isn't. So that was good. And it was right after the draft happened, we were talking about, does he go out to right field? Is he only a designated hitter? Is that his ultimate future? Well, I'm sorry, the guy has value and his outlook is only bigger if he can find a spot and stick there, I think. Like Carter Jensen's prospect profile for me rose exponentially once I saw, hey, he's getting better behind the plate. Like, he's a legitimate catcher. He's a good athlete, but he's going to stick at catcher. So just minor details about that, about the prospects. Sure, they might get overblown every now and then, but they get overblown because there's an enthusiastic reason behind it, I would say.
Yeah.
So if you want to check out the full breakdown on the top 100, you can always go to MLB.com. I'm pretty sure Max put up something on RoyalsReview.com right after that update dropped. And again, this is just the mid-season update. Okay, this will have another update preseason 2025. Gosh, that feels so weird.
And we'll
to say.
hear from other prospect outlets like Baseball Prospectus, Baseball America or whatever.
So the Just Baseball, which is where Jared Perkins, we've had him on the show before. He does a lot of writing over there. They had 3 Royals prospects in their top 100. They had catcher Ramon Ramirez sneak into their top 100. Yeah, so there's a lot of catching depth.
There's down there too.
Yes,
I can't remember. Is Hung Chan, who's been tearing the cover off the ball in A ball as well.
That he is, and he's just taken his opportunities and ran with them. I didn't think he wasn't looking too strong at complex ball last year, but he came ready to go this year, and he is taking full advantage of it.
Another thing to look out for with Caglianone as far as how fast he's going to go is, does he pitch next year? Because they've said he's not pitching this year. If he's going to pitch, it's going to slow him down. That's just the fact of the matter. And so it'll be interesting to see if he actually pitches next year, or if it's more of like the Austin Charles of, we said he could pitch, but then when we talk to him, because that's what's going to happen is they're going to get to the offseason. They're going to be like, maybe you can pitch. You want to pitch? You want to try to pitch? It's going to slow you down. You're going to take longer to get to the big leagues. Would you like to get to the big leagues faster? Then you're not going to pitch. And that's, if I was him, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Like, I wanted to pitch, but I also would like that big league paycheck, please.
Yeah, that's I would have my eyes just focused on that big league money. And I do think it helps that in the draft the Royals did add 2 pitching prospects that fall in their top 10. So it's not like they're relying upon Caglianone to be this pitching prospect. They are kind of relying on him being a position player, slugger prospect. So just focus on that. That's where most of his value is. The guy's 21. All right, so let's have a little bit of patience. That is what we could ask for.
Okay.
So
Noah Cameron.
I remember
I'm not following him. Tell me about Noah Cameron.
So the Raising Royals have deemed Noah Cameron Mr. Consistency, is what they call him. So he's had 3 starts since joining Omaha. In those 3 starts, he has 6+ innings and has allowed exactly 1 run in each start.
All right.
And in his final 3 starts with the Naturals, he had 23 strikeouts and 1 walk. And then in his first 3 starts with Omaha, he has 23 strikeouts and 1 walk. So the reason why I kind of focused on this a little bit more is, in my mind, it was Mason Barnett and Noah Cameron had similar ceilings. And I was slightly disappointed when I saw Mason Barnett go to the Oakland Athletics in the Lucas Erceg trade, but you got to give up prospects to get good players. So I chalk that up. I think it is great to see Cameron, who's currently sitting at the 12th best prospect, according to MLB Pipeline. It's just great to see him start off his AAA tenure so strong.
Yeah.
And folks should keep an eye on it, because that rotation in Omaha looks good. Okay, you have a lot of good options there. Daniel Lynch, Alec Marsh, Chandler Champlain, Noah Cameron.
I'm not sold on Daniel Lynch, I gotta say.
I'm not sold on him either. However, his results at the AAA level are good. He might
just be a 4A guy, unfortunately.
I'm not gonna disagree with that, because he's kind of proven that time and time again. Unfortunately, this is I'm ready for some optimism. I'm ready for a reason outside of Bobby Witt Jr. and Cole Regan to sink my teeth into this team again and say, yes, I believe in them.
Noah Cameron, certainly I'm looking at his numbers. His AA numbers were very good too.
They were.
He looks like a guy who could be fighting for a rotation spot early next year. Yep. Certainly late next year. They usually have something on here that says when they think he'll show up.
His ETA is 2025.
Okay, so that would be next year.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know why I don't see it here. Anyway, that doesn't matter. So, Chandler Champlain, maybe a little bit further off. But again, Blake Mitchell, Jack Caglianone, both very highly rated prospects. Mitchell having a lot of success this year. Caglianone maybe late next year. Mitchell probably not until 2026 at the earliest. But even so, you could be looking very soon at a lineup that has Bobby, Aggs, and Mitchell, because they did lock. That's the thing, is they locked up Bobby, which didn't mean much for this year, even though everyone was celebrating it like it did. But it does mean something for the future, especially if you can bring up some more stars like Cags and Mitchell, and then you've got a middle of your order that features all three of those guys tearing the cover off the ball. If the Royals miss the playoffs this year, it's going to suck because they've looked so good all year. But this is not the end. This is not like 2003 when the team, had the bright spot and then it kind of fell apart down the stretch. And then, well, now what? This is a team that should be good for a while.
Yes. I just really hope this farm system holds up. And they're, like I said before, they're trending in the right direction. By every measurement I can find, they are trending in the correct direction.
Hey, and the lottery means that even if the Royals finish with a pretty good record this year, maybe they'll pick higher than that. They've had some unlucky picks first couple of years of the lottery, but maybe the lottery will favor them this time.
That'd be nice. That'd be a nice change, wouldn't it? All right, Jeremy, let's go and get to our reviews this evening. First off, I apologize for my low energy today. It was a heck of a day at work. And it is weighing heavily on me right now. As such, my review is going to be over an energy drink. Actually, wait, no, I already reviewed Ghost energy drinks. Gosh, dang it. Jeremy, do you have a review ready?
Yeah,
I don't.
You save me all the time, so I'll save you this time.
Whew,
I mentioned last time that I was watching the Tower of God anime, and then I went on to talk about the Crunchyroll captions.
Yes.
By the way, I've started season 2 of Tower of God, and they have real closed captions for that one, so that's nice.
That is good.
They still need to go back and fix the season 1 captions, but at least the season 2 captions are for real. But Tower of God is an anime that I really, really enjoy. It's got a really memorable cast of characters and a really interesting mystery of like, what is this tower? Why these people all want to climb it? What do they think is at the top? What will happen if anyone ever actually gets there? And so the second season is kind of interesting in that it's got a little bit of a Kingdom Hearts 2 thing going on, which for those of you who haven't played it is you start the game and here's a whole new protagonist and series of side characters that were not present in the first game at all. Who are these people? What is going on? What happened to all my old people? So I watched the first 3 or 4 episodes. It's doing that, but also like Kingdom Hearts 2, I'm falling for these characters also. So I'm having a good time. The cast of characters, again, very different, but also very likable and interesting. And especially what I like is there's this character Arc Raptor, who I don't think they've said his name, but it shows up in the closed captions, who kind of introduces himself as kind of an asshole and is like, I'm gonna start killing people. And then a few minutes later, like everyone's kind of at the mercy of this other character. And he's like, you gotta save me. I have a daughter. And everyone's like, no, you don't. You're lying. And you're like, I have 2 daughters. This is my other daughter. And like points to this girl who's clearly not his daughter. But then like he's kind of gaining some likability and like maybe he's not so bad. Maybe he's an asshole, but an asshole with a heart of gold kind of thing. Yeah. So I love those kinds of turns. I love villain. There's people who are like enemies to lovers is their favorite trope. My favorite trope is villain to best friend. And that's kind of playing out a little bit here. So I don't know like how to recommend it and be like, this is what it is like. And if you like that, you'll love it. But I find it to be a whole lot of fun. I find the cast of characters, they're always like, a lot of them start off as very unlikable, but gradually as you get deeper into who they are, they become interesting and likable. And there's a lot of depth to those characters.
Okay. All right. I like it. What's the title of that again?
Tower of God. It's based on a Korean webcomic instead of being based on a manga, which was kind of unique. I think there's more and more of these now, but when it first came out, it was one of 2 that came out the same year, along with God of High School, which was very confusing because they both had God in the title. God of High School ended up kind of burning out real fast. I don't even think it's gotten a second season, but Tower of God has its second season now, and it seems to be going strong, and I'm loving every second of it.
Okay. There's two Royals related things I'm more shout outs than reviews. I do want to shout out Will Klein, who was traded away to the Athletics, and I wrote about him a little bit this morning. He's finding a pretty good foothold there in their bullpen, pitching exclusively as a low leverage guy, but he's still striking folks out, still hasn't allowed a hit, still hasn't allowed a run, so he's looking good for Oakland, and I don't care if he's on the Royals or not. I wish him nothing but the best. And also Royals related that I want to talk about is the Omaha Storm Chasers jersey designs. I think a lot of Royals fans sleep on them because we should be talking about them a lot more. This past homestand was all of their themed jerseys that they went off.
They have one that's based on a sandwich or something, don't they?
Yes, they have the Runza.
What the heck is a Runza?
I have no clue what a Runza is. I really don't. I know
you could tell me.
I know it's a Nebraska thing.
Find me and tell me what a Runza is, please.
Please, begging you. We need to know what a Runza is. Looking at you, Storm Chasers. But outside of that, they became the Malmo Oat Milkers, which that was an interesting kit, but very cool. And then also they have their top that they pair up with the white pants. That is just the corn, like looks like a giant corn cob. Overall, and I'm also forgetting. Yes, it does. That's what I see. That's what I think of every time I see that. Like, they've got the juice. And then lastly, they did their Defenders of the Diamonds jersey, which is like every AAA team does it. They have they do a superhero night basically.
Okay. That sounds cooler than City Connect.
Yeah, it gets a little cheesy. It really, really does. But that's fine. Yeah, exactly. And I know there's one I'm forgetting because it was a red kit. I don't know what it was based off of. I really don't. So Nicholas Batters, if you're listening, we need you. We need some clarification, and I need to know what the hell I'm talking about.
Is he the Omaha guy now?
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought he was the low A guy.
No, he is the Omaha guy. All that to say, I enjoy alternate jerseys. I do, especially when they look nice, when they are done well. And the ridiculous ones are just ridiculous enough that they aren't cheesy, and the more not subdued ones, the more professional ones, if you'll say it,
standard, are normal.
Yeah, like standard alternates. Yeah, they're still different enough from the everyday kits that they have. And also, one thing, there's one freaking guy on Twitter that always gets on to me when I call them kits. Okay, it is a jersey is just the shirt.
Yep,
okay,
that's true.
Kit is everything.
That is correct. You are correct.
Well, thank you, Jeremy. I needed that today. All right.
You could also refer to it as a uniform, and that would cover everything.
That's true.
But kit
I've even thought about that.
Normal and correct. Like, it's more standard to call it a kit when you're talking about the soccer uniforms or the UK football uniforms. But the term absolutely applies to what baseball players wear too.
Well, all these uncultured swine out here, Jeremy, who have never watched any European football.
We want to call our listeners uncultured swine. That's where we're feeling, Jacob.
I guess so. I say that in a sarcastic
I would like to distance myself from Jacob Milham, please, or Jacob Willem, as some people would like to refer to him.
We're not talking about that.
All right, he was on 610 The Drive with C-Dot. Y'all should go listen to that. It's on their website, like its own little thing. Go listen to it. It was good stuff.
Yeah, I got my own little section and everything. Thank you. I was nervous out of my freaking mind. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, you sounded great. I couldn't tell.
Well, thank you. Well, if you can't hear, I'm currently getting bit by a cat.
just chomped and not letting go. That's amazing. I can see just fully chomped.
All right, we're getting ridiculous, so we should get on out of here. Listen, folks, if you want more of the ridiculousness, it's over on social media. Just make sure to subscribe and follow along with us. I know we're not everyone's cup of tea, but if we're your cup of tea, let's make sure that we keep on refilling that cup, shall we?
I don't like tea.
Well, okay. Well, now I'm going to cancel you, Jeremy. All right. From everyone here at the podcast, this has been the Royals Rundown Podcast. I'm Jacob Milham. He is the tea hater, Jeremy Greco. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And until next time, go Royals.